Hello everyone, and welcome to our channel, where we explore fascinating curiosities and deep lore from The Lord of the Rings and the wider legendarium of J.R.R. Tolkien. Today's video will be presented as a documentary-style analysis, bringing a clear and engaging look at some of the strangest and most mysterious beings ever imagined for Middle-earth. Before we begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming explorations. Your support truly helps this project grow. In this episode, we'll dive into the bizarre, the unsettling, and the utterly unexplainable creatures that wander through Tolkien's mythology, being so strange that even the wisest characters in the story, from Gandalf to Elrond, struggle to understand them. This is the hidden side of Middle-earth, the shadowed corners where myth and mystery blend. All images shown throughout this video were generated using AI. Because of that, some visuals may contain small inconsistencies or details that differ slightly from the narration. The goal is to illustrate the atmosphere of each moment without violating any copyright guidelines. And one more note, there may be a few narration glitches here and there, as we are still testing the best voice AI system for our documentaries. Thank you for your patience as we refine the experience. So, get comfortable, and let's begin our journey into the most bizarre creatures ever imagined by Tolkien. Huan, the greatest of the Hounds of Valinor, opens our countdown in a way that immediately sets the tone for how strange and awe-inspiring Tolkien's world can be. At first glance, Huan might seem noble, even familiar, a loyal hunting dog gifted by the Vala. But the deeper you look, the stranger he becomes. Huan was no ordinary animal. He was a divine hound given by Orome, the great hunter, to a mighty elven prince. His strength alone was remarkable, yet what truly set him apart was his destiny. Huan had been granted the ability to speak, but only 3 times in his entire life. This prophecy shaped every major moment of his existence, and each time he chose to break his silence, it was to guide or protect those he cared for. One of the most astonishing episodes involving Huan is his confrontation with Sauron. Not the armored Dark Lord we know from the films, but Sauron in the terrifying form of a colossal werewolf. And yet, even in that monstrous shape, Sauron was defeated by a single hound. Huan overpowered him so completely that Sauron fled in humiliation. It's one of those scenes in Tolkien's mythology that reminds us how vast and unpredictable the hierarchy of power truly is. But Huan's fate was sealed by prophecy. His final battle was against Carcharoth, the greatest wolf ever bred by Morgoth. After a fierce fight, Huan triumphed, but the victory cost him his life. He used his third and final permitted speech to bid farewell to his dearest companion before dying. It's a tragic, almost mythic ending, one that blends loyalty, destiny, and sacrifice into a single unforgettable figure. And honestly, few creatures in Middle-earth manage to be both bizarre and deeply moving at the same time. Huan stands as one of those rare exceptions, a divine hound whose courage shaped legends. In 9th place, we move from a heroic hound to something far more enigmatic, the mysterious fishmen of Numenor. What makes these beings so unsettling is not their appearance or behavior, because, truth be told, we know almost nothing about them. Their strangeness comes from the complete lack of explanation surrounding their existence. The fishmen are mentioned only briefly as legends told among the sailors of Numenor, the great island nation of men that later sank beneath the sea. These stories hinted at strange beings from the deep, creatures that supposedly lived in the dark waters surrounding the island. And that's all we get. Nothing concrete, nothing confirmed. In many ways, that silence makes them even more disturbing. Tolkien seemed to introduce them not as monsters to be fought, but as myths whispered by seafarers who witnessed things no one else could understand. It feels intentional, almost like he wanted the world of Middle-earth to mirror our own, full of legends, half-truths, and mysteries that remain unsolved. Just as our world has tales of merfolk, sea spirits, and deep ocean horrors, Numenor had its own maritime folklore. Readers and fans have speculated endlessly. Could the fishmen have been creations of Ulmo, the Lord of Waters? Were they ancient spirits of the sea, a forgotten race that lived beneath the waves long before Numenor rose? Or perhaps Tolkien imagined a Middle-earth version of mermaids or tritons, but chose to leave them shrouded in ambiguity. No explanation ever appears, and that absence becomes the defining feature of these beings. And honestly, That's what makes them so fascinating. The fishmen exist almost as a footnote, a passing rumor that opens a window into a vast, unexplored oceanic mythology. Their mystery becomes their identity. They aren't villains or allies. They're simply part of a world much bigger than what the characters, or we, can ever fully understand. Because of that, the fishmen of Numenor earned their place among the most bizarre and haunting beings ever hinted at in Tolkien's Legendarium. In 8th place, we encounter a creature that feels as though it stepped straight out of a gothic nightmare and into the world of Middle-earth, Thuringwethil, the woman of the shadow of dusk. Even her name sounds eerie, but her description pushes things into full horror territory. Thuringwethil served as a messenger of Sauron, taking the form of a massive, vampiric bat with iron claws at the tips of her wings. And yes, this is Tolkien we're talking about, yet the imagery unmistakably evokes a vampire-like being. A monstrous bat creature flying through the night, carrying out the will of the shadow. Her origins remain completely uncertain. Some readers have theorized that she may have been a corrupted Maya, a divine spirit twisted into a monstrous form much like the Balrogs. But nothing in the text confirms this. Her presence is intentionally shrouded in ambiguity, making her even more unnerving. And despite her limited appearances, Thuringwethil leaves a massive mark on the Legendarium through her indirect role in one of Tolkien's greatest love stories, the tale of Beren and Luthien. After Thuringwethil vanished, Luthien took on her terrifying appearance as a disguise to infiltrate the fortress of Morgoth. Imagine that for a moment. A noble elven princess wearing the leathery hide of a colossal demonic bat, stepping into the heart of the greatest evil in Arda. It's grim, desperate, and unforgettable. That image alone shows the intensity of Beren and Luthien's mission, and the lengths they were willing to go to in order to challenge Morgoth himself. Thuringwethil stands out not simply because she's bizarre, but because she represents a rare moment where Tolkien leans fully into horror. She is a shadowy, night-flying agent of evil whose influence reaches far beyond her brief appearance. And the fact that even her true nature remains unknown only adds to her unsettling mystique. In 7th place, we turn to beings that many fans know from the films, but only partly. The Ents are already strange enough on their own, towering, ancient tree herders who move and speak in a language so slow and complex that a simple conversation can take hours. But what truly pushes this entry into the bizarre are their darker counterparts, the Huorns. If the Ents represent a bridge between trees and people, the Huorns sit uneasily between trees and something far more dangerous. Huorns are described as trees that have awakened just enough to move, think, and act, but without the clarity or calm wisdom of the Ents. They dwell in the deepest, shadowed corners of forests like Fangorn, where light barely reaches the ground. They move silently, often only when unseen, and their presence radiates an unsettling hostility. They aren't servants of Sauron, nor creatures of pure evil, but their nature is wild, unpredictable, and deeply territorial. Treebeard himself explains that some Huorns were once Ents who became too tree-like, slipping back toward a more rooted existence but retaining a dangerous spark of awareness. Others may have been ordinary trees, stirred by the lingering power of ancient forests. Whatever their origin, they embody a more primal force of nature, a force that can think, react, and even kill. Their most terrifying moment comes during the Battle of Helm's Deep. While the films portray a chaotic rescue by the Ents, the books reveal something far creepier. A dark, brooding forest of Huorns appears overnight, blocking the escape of the fleeing Orc army. When dawn breaks, every Orc has vanished, and the Huorns stand silently among piles of crushed armor and broken weapons. The forest then withdraws, just as quietly, leaving no trace except the aftermath of its wrath. The Huorns show that Middle-earth isn't shaped only by heroes and villains. It's shaped by ancient, untamed powers that don't care about wars or kingdoms. They act when provoked, vanish when finished, and leave behind only whispers of dread. In 6th place, we enter one of the eeriest corners of Middle-earth, the Barrow-wights. These beings take the idea of a haunting and elevate it into something far more chilling. They aren't simple ghosts drifting through old ruins. They are malevolent spirits that inhabit the ancient burial mounds of the Barrow Downs, east of the Shire. Their exact origin isn't completely clear, but what is known is unsettling enough. During the long decay of the northern kingdom of Arnor, the Witch King corrupted these tombs, filling them with a dark, lingering power. That corruption eventually gave rise to the Barrow Wights, who now dwell in the gloom of those forgotten graves. Unlike creatures that attack with brute force, the Barrow Wights prey on the mind. They manipulate fog, darkness, and fear itself. They can turn daylight into a suffocating twilight and lure travelers into the depths of the earth without shedding a drop of blood. Their presence is a cold, creeping terror rather than a violent assault. When Frodo, Merry, and Pippin encountered them, they were dragged into one of these tombs and forced into an eerie ritual. The Wight dressed them in ancient royal garments, crowns, jewels, swords, as if preparing them for a grim offering to the darkness. Inside the tomb, a Barrow Wight chanted an ancient, sinister song, ready to sacrifice their souls. It's one of the most disturbing scenes in the entire Legendarium, especially for readers who knew nothing about it before opening the book. The films skip it entirely, which leaves many fans shocked when they finally encounter this episode. What makes the Barrow Wights so bizarre isn't just their supernatural nature, it's the psychological horror they bring. They twist the environment, invade the mind, and blur the line between life and death. And the only reason the Hobbits survived was because of a figure even stranger than the Wights themselves, one who will appear soon in this countdown. In fifth place, we arrive at one of the greatest enigmas in all of Tolkien's Legendarium, Tom Bombadil. Few characters spark as much debate, confusion, and fascination as he does. Tom lives deep within the old forest, wearing his iconic blue coat and yellow boots, always singing, laughing, and skipping through the woods as if he exists in a world entirely his own. At first glance, he feels like a whimsical children's story character, cheerful and harmless. But the more you learn about him, the stranger he becomes. For one, Tom Bombadil is completely unaffected by the One Ring. Utterly and absolutely. When Frodo hands him the ring, Tom slips it onto his finger and nothing happens. No invisibility, no corruption, no temptation. He even makes the ring itself vanish and reappear, as though it were a simple trinket. That moment alone reveals that Tom operates on a level of power and detachment that none of the Free Peoples, nor even Sauron, can fully comprehend. The Council of Elrond even discusses whether the ring should be entrusted to Tom. But Gandalf, who respects Tom more than almost anyone, explains that Tom would simply forget the ring or throw it away because he simply doesn't care about such things. And that is what makes him bizarre. Tom Bombadil is both immensely powerful and profoundly indifferent. He exists outside the struggle of good versus evil, almost as if the world's greatest threats don't apply to him. Tom often describes himself as the eldest, saying he was there before the first trees, before the first drops of water, before the arrival of the elves. He doesn't fit into any known category, not Vala, not Maya, not elf or man. His nature is left intentionally undefined, and fans have formed countless theories to explain him. What makes Tom Bombadil truly unique is that Tolkien chose not to define him. He left Tom as a living mystery, a being who defies the laws of Middle-earth and walks untouched through its darkest dangers. In fourth place, we shift our attention to beings far more destructive, ancient, and overwhelming, the first dragons of Middle-earth. While many fans know Smaug as the iconic dragon of Tolkien's world, he is only a fragment of a far greater and darker legacy. To understand the true scale of Middle-earth's draconic terror, we look to two primordial monsters, Glorung and Encalagon the Black. Glorung, known as the father of dragons, was the very first of his kind created by Morgoth. Unlike Smaug, Glorung had no wings. He was a massive, fire-breathing serpent who crawled across battlefields like a living inferno. But despite his devastating flames, his most dangerous weapon was his mind. Glorung was a master manipulator, capable of weaving lies so powerful they could shatter spirits. He could cloud memories, twist emotions, and drive even the strongest heroes toward despair. It was Glorung who shaped the tragic downfall of Turin Turambar, using psychological torment rather than brute force to destroy him. That blend of physical power and mental domination makes Glorung one of the most terrifying creatures Morgoth ever unleashed. But if Glorung was terror of the mind, Encalagon the Black was terror of pure scale. The greatest and most powerful of all dragons, Encalagon's arrival during the War of Wrath was so massive that even the armies of the Vala were stunned. His size is never given in exact measurements, but Tolkien left one unforgettable clue. When Encalagon finally fell from the sky after being defeated by Arendelle, his body crashed into the 3 volcanic peaks of Thangorodrim and destroyed them. Entire mountains, shattered by a single creature's fall. That single image cements Encalagon as one of the most destructive beings ever to exist in Arda. No other living creature has a recorded feat on that scale. Together, Glorung and Encalagon represent 2 forms of terror, psychological and physical, proving that the dragons of Tolkien's world are far more horrifying than anything shown in the films. In third place, we face one of the most unsettling mysteries lurking in Middle-earth, the Watcher in the Water, the tentacled creature that attacked the Fellowship at the West Gate of Moria. Its appearance in the story is brief but unforgettable, sudden, violent, and shrouded in complete mystery. In many ways, the Watcher represents the unknown horrors that lie beneath the surface of Tolkien's world, especially in places long abandoned or forgotten. The Watcher dwelled in a dark lake formed outside Moria's western entrance after the dwarves dammed a nearby river. It struck without warning, seizing Frodo with one of its many tentacles before the Fellowship even had time to react. What followed was a frantic struggle as the creature lashed out, forcing the group into the mines, and then collapsing the doors behind them. After this terrifying encounter, the Watcher is never seen again, never explained, and never given a clear origin. And that's precisely what makes it so bizarre. There are no concrete answers, only speculation. Was it an ancient sea monster that migrated into the mountains? A corrupted spirit shaped by Morgoth in ages past? Some liken it to a kraken, others imagine a fallen Maya twisted into a monstrous aquatic form. The truth is that Tolkien deliberately left it undefined. The Watcher simply exists, a lurking reminder that deep places in Middle-earth hold dangers older and stranger than Sauron himself. This creature embodies the idea that not all threats in the world are connected to the great wars between light and darkness. Some things grow in forgotten corners, in waters left undisturbed for centuries, waiting for an unlucky traveler. The Watcher's attack is swift, brutal, and entirely out of context, an intrusion of cosmic horror into an already tense journey. Its presence leaves us with more questions than answers, and that uncertainty is precisely why the Watcher in the Water stands among the most bizarre beings in Tolkien's entire mythology. In second place, we come to a creature many people think they understand because of the films, but the truth is far stranger and far more terrifying. The Balrog of Moria is iconic, especially for its confrontation with Gandalf on the bridge of Khazad-dûm. But what makes Balrogs truly bizarre isn't their fiery bodies or towering forms. It's the fact that they aren't monsters at all. Balrogs are Maiar, beings of the same spiritual order as Gandalf, Saruman, and even Sauron himself. These were once angelic spirits, part of the early creation of Arda, before being corrupted by Morgoth, the first Dark Lord. That corruption twisted them into demonic forms wreathed in flame and shadow. Yet beneath that monstrous exterior still lies an immortal spirit. Knowing this changes everything about how we see them. The creature the Fellowship encountered wasn't just a beast in the dark, it was an ancient, fallen power, older than the mountains it dwelled beneath. Their exact number is debated, but what remains clear is that they were among Morgoth's most feared servants, leading armies and spreading terror across Beleriand during the First Age. By the time of the Lord of the Rings, most Balrogs were believed to have been destroyed or scattered. The one in Moria survived deep beneath the earth, hidden for ages until the dwarves delved too greedily and too deep. This context adds an entirely new dimension to Gandalf's sacrifice. When he faces the Balrog, he's not fighting just another foe, he's battling a corrupted divine spirit equal in origin to himself. Their clash on the bridge becomes much more than hero versus monster, it becomes a confrontation between two ancient beings, each shaped by the path they chose. And that's what makes Balrogs so unnerving. They are not mindless destroyers. They are fallen immortals, embodiments of flame, shadow, and ruin, proof that even divine spirits can be twisted into horrors beyond mortal understanding. In first place, we finally reach the most bizarre, terrifying, and almost alien creature in all of Tolkien's mythology, Ungoliant. If you thought Sauron or even Morgoth represented the peak of darkness, Ungoliant forces you to rethink everything. She is not a servant, not a lieutenant, not a corrupted spirit with a clear purpose. Ungoliant is something far older and far stranger, a monstrous spider-like being driven by one thing alone, an insatiable hunger for light. Her origins are shrouded in mystery. One lesser-known theory suggests she might have been a corrupted Maya, but few give that idea much weight. The most widely accepted belief is far more unsettling, that Ungoliant came from the void, the primordial darkness that existed before the world itself was shaped. From the very beginning, she was a creature of emptiness, devouring anything radiant or pure. She allied with Morgoth only out of convenience, never loyalty. He needed her power, she needed something to consume. Her greatest act of destruction came when she and Morgoth attacked the 2 trees of Valinor. Ungoliant didn't just poison them, she drained them entirely, drinking their light until they were left dry and dead. In doing so, she grew to an enormous and terrifying size. And Morgoth, witnessing the magnitude of her power, soon realized he had unleashed something he could not control. The breaking point arrived when Ungoliant demanded the Silmarils, craving the unmatched light trapped within them. When Morgoth refused, she attacked him. Imagine that, a colossal spider creature wrapping the first Dark Lord in her suffocating webs, nearly devouring him. Morgoth's scream of terror echoed through the mountains, and he was saved only when his Balrogs arrived and drove her away. Ungoliant fled into forgotten regions of the world, consumed by endless hunger. According to legend, she eventually devoured herself, swallowed by the very void she embodied. She remains the purest expression of cosmic horror Tolkien ever created, a being that neither light nor shadow could ever fully define. We've now reached the end of our journey through Tolkien's strangest and most mysterious creatures, and it's clear just how vast and unpredictable Middle-earth truly is. From divine hounds to corrupted spirits, from ancient dragons to formless terrors of the deep, each being we explored adds another layer to the mythic depth Tolkien built into his world. And closing this list with Ungoliant makes the conclusion even more striking, because she embodies something that exists beyond good, evil, or even the natural order, pure hunger, pure darkness, and pure mystery. But before we wrap up completely, the original discussion takes a moment to reflect on Tolkien himself. Considering his faith and the influences woven into his legendarium, some fans speculate about certain symbolic interpretations, especially with enigmatic figures like Tom Bombadil or primordial beings like Ungoliant. These perspectives aren't presented as fact, but as personal reflections shaped by Tolkien's background and the themes he loved to explore. And that's part of the magic. Tolkien deliberately left room for wonder, ambiguity, and interpretation. The final lines of the original text shift to a more personal note, thanking the audience for staying to the end and encouraging them to share their thoughts. Which creature do you think is the strangest? Did we miss any that deserve a place in this bizarre bestiary? Middle-earth is full of oddities and shadows that rarely make it into the spotlight, and who knows, your suggestions might inspire a part 2 someday. As for the closing remarks, they echo the spirit of many passionate creators, an invitation to comment, a reminder that engagement helps the channel grow, and a warm farewell. With that, our exploration ends. Having crossed forests haunted by Huorns, plunged into the cold tombs of the Barrow-wights, witnessed ancient dragons rise and fall, and touched the edges of the void itself. Thank you for joining this journey through the strangest corners of Tolkien's mythology.